Ukrainians have been fighting and dying not just to protect their sovereignty, their territorial integrity. They're also fighting to protect the rules-based order that keeps us all safe.
Okay, quick memory jog. Anyone else remember when Donald Trump said he'd bring an end to the war in Ukraine quickly?
That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him.
As quick as he said he would bring down grocery prices, before then backtracking on that faster than you can say golf of who gives a shite.
Starting the day I take the oath of office, I will rapidly drive prices down and we will make America affordable again. We're going to make it affordable again.
Yeah. And inflation is back. I'm only here for 2.5 weeks.
That was January.
Inflation is back. No, think of it. Inflation's back. And they said, oh, Trump inflation. I had nothing to do with it.
And now let's also remind ourselves of who warned that Trump would say all this just to cow to Putin's request before Melania could even redecorate in the White House.
Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
After President Trump falsely called Ukraine's President Zelensky a dictator, escalating a public war of words between the two leaders, all of which started when Trump falsely accused Ukraine of starting the war with Russia, a take so bad that even Fox News couldn't help and spin it.
What are your thoughts on what the president has put together in terms of the rare earth minerals in Ukraine? There are some key conditions for continued support for Ukraine. According to sources in this, Ukraine must transfer 50% of all revenues from resource extraction licenses to the United States. The investment fund for reconstruction will have exclusive powers to issue and manage licenses for that resource extraction. The U.S. will have the right of first refusal to purchase any minerals exported before Ukraine can sell them to other countries. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, it further reads, and this is to pay back some exaggerated number that everybody thinks the United States has given Ukraine. So this is not for the future of Ukraine. This is to pay back what the United States gave before. And what I'll say is that, first of all, this is like war reparations from Ukraine, who's the victim. Russia should be handing over their natural resources for all the money that we've spent, not Ukraine. Ukraine needs to rebuild. They need to defend themselves. To punish Ukraine for the military aid that we've given them before seems like, a highly unsympathetic position. And I'm not being in any way a partisan here. I was at the Munich Security Conference last weekend, and I was meeting with Democrat senators and Republican senators. And there's no difference in the position on supporting Ukraine. Ukraine are the victims here. Putin is the criminal here. And that's how we have to look at this whole thing.
Yeah. And Russia is being supported now by China.
Russia is being supported by China. Russia is being supported by Iran.
Yeah.
And Russia is being supported by North Korea.
That's right.
This is the league of bad guys. And we are the good guys. We should be siding with the good guys.
And Trump just continued to spew lies as he does, claiming that Scott Bessent went to Ukraine and was treated rather rudely, according to Trump, saying that Zelensky was sleeping and unavailable to meet him.
And then Scott Bessent actually went there and was treated rather rudely because essentially they told him
No, and Zelensky was sleeping and unavailable to meet him. He traveled many hours on the train, which is a dangerous trip. And we're talking about the Secretary of the Treasury. He went there to get a document signed. And when he got there, he came back empty. They wouldn't sign the document. But for Europe, they pay back their money.
Well, here's a picture of Zelensky sleeping and unavailable to meet him.
Mr. President, right honor. But it's not enough that we shared values. We have shared security commitment.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Дуже дякуємо за цей візит. Сьогодні це перший міністр з команди президента Трампа, і ми дуже вдячні за це.
As a result, across the world, European and North American leaders have voiced their support for the Ukraine and Zelensky, going against a man who said that he'd already have this war resolved.
So the number 10 have just revealed in the last few minutes that the Prime Minister and President Zelensky have spoken on the phone and stressed the need for everyone to work together. Everyone to work together. In other words, the Europeans being involved in the peace process as well, such as it is. Now, that key sentence, the Prime Minister expressed his support for President Zelensky as Ukraine's democratically elected leader.
If President Trump's facts are based on untruths, or fake news as he would call it, the Ukraine started the war. I mean, let's examine that fact. Well, no, Russia invaded in 2014, having given its word at the Budapest Memorandum that it would respect Ukraine, and Russia then invaded again in 2022. Let's look at the other fact. You often hear America, and I heard him in the Oval Office last week say, we've given double what Europe's given. No, actually, Europe's given more collectively to Ukraine than the United States. And now you hear this one about, he hasn't had an election, right? That's the latest.
Yes.
Well, Winston Churchill didn't have an election for 6 years because we were fighting the Second World War. It didn't make us undemocratic. It's because, fun enough, we were fighting for our survival as Ukraine is. And no doubt the constitution of Ukraine will be upheld and there'll be an election whenever that is possible. But you see these lines that are very similar to the Russians' line.
And the thing is that it's not like this should come as a surprise to anyone. I mean, Trump literally said on the campaign that he'd give Putin free rein to do whatever the hell he wants regarding NATO.
NATO was busted until I came along. I said, everybody's going to pay. They said, well, if we don't pay, are you still going to protect us? I said, absolutely not. They couldn't believe the answer. They asked me that question. One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
And when you listen to Trump's supporters on this very issue, they don't exactly mince their words either.
Ukraine, would it give you any pause?
I don't have a problem with Russia. I really don't. I have a problem with Ukraine. They're corrupt. I think that people are just ridiculous that they think that Putin's such this enemy. He isn't doing anything. He just wants back what was his.
But he invaded
What was his.
He invaded Ukraine, killing thousands of people.
That's fine. That's fine with me.
As a veteran yourself, does it concern you at all that Russian aggression could move even beyond Ukraine?
I don't think Putin's a problem. I think Zelensky's the problem.
Why do you think Putin's not the problem? He's the one that invaded Ukraine and has killed thousands of people.
Because Putin is trying to save his country from the likes of idiots like Zelensky and the elitists.
They have no problem voicing their admiration of dictators because they willfully surrender to one, no matter his intent to rid them of their social security, gut Medicaid, make life more expensive for them. As long as they get to put Gulf of America on their mass deportation shirts, they think they've accomplished something in voting for him. When the only thing this accomplishes is Putin's wish, hence the escalation of his attacks mere hours after Donald Trump's comforting words to him.
Not us. Then who will stop them? Really? Let's be honest, now we can't rule out the possibility that America might say no to Europe on issues that threaten it. Many leaders have talked about Europe that needs its own military, an army of Europe. And I really believe that time has come. The armed forces of Europe must be created.
And Trump's boosting of Russia goes well beyond rhetoric. The president raised many eyebrows last week when opting to hold a 90-minute phone call with Vladimir Putin before even speaking with Zelensky. Then on Tuesday, US and Russian officials held high-level talks on ending the war in Ukraine in the Saudi capital of Riyadh, excluding Kiev from the meeting altogether, which of course Putin praised.
They're also fighting to protect the rules-based order that keeps us all safe around the world and has for close to 80 years now. This period of peace, stability, prosperity for the world happens because we had rules around borders, around not invading your neighbors, that Russia chose deliberately to violate a number of years ago. That is why Canada and our allies are unequivocal on standing up against Vladimir Putin's illegal, immoral, unjust violations of the international order, and why I'm looking forward to sitting down with my European partners in a couple of hours to talk about how we will continue to stand unequivocally in defense of Ukraine, but also in defense of the rules that keep us all safe.
The world is watching, right? They're watching in fear as the man who made it no secret his admiration for dictators does exactly what he said he'd do. On everything, by the way, except delivering for the American people.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.